This video will provide the counter argument to when a Christian claims that God is necessary for there to be logic or reason. First, you can use a version of the Euthyphro dilemma. Ask if logic is logical because God commands it, or if God commands it because it's inherently logical. If logic is just a divine command, it becomes arbitrary. If God follows logic because it's inherently true, then logic exists independently of God and he can't be the source. I feel like I need to clarify this one a little. If we cannot deduce through logic and reasoning what is true or logical, then we must depend completely on God to tell us what is true or logical. And the Bible does not even come close to giving us adequate instructions for all things that are true and reliable or logical. The Bible says, "Thou shalt not take the lives of others." But then it also says, if someone violates God's laws, you should stone them until their life is gone. What did God say about arbitrarily chopping off the fingers of random strangers? Is that good or bad? From the biblical worldview, you cannot know whether it is wrong to randomly chop off people's fingers. If humans have the ability to apply rational thought to deduce that chopping people's fingers off is immoral, then God is not the source of morality. So we can demonstrate that the Bible is inadequate and inconsistent in applying rational, logical instructions for humanity. We can also demonstrate that God does not miraculously, behind the scenes, instill knowledge or truth or logic to Christians because they all fight and argue and disagree about absolutely everything. So claiming that God is the source of logic and reasoning can be defeated through logic and reasoning. And even Christians know that if God is only declaring what is true rather than determining what is true, that means God is not the source of truth. He would have to have a higher power that was telling him what was true so that he could tell you what he was told was true. Second, you can apply Occam's razor. This principle suggests the simplest explanation is usually the best. The idea that logic is a fundamental transcendent truth is simpler than adding the extra step that this truth must be grounded in an infinite personal being. The God explanation doesn't provide any new insight into what logic actually is. This one doesn't really require explanation. Saying that logic and reason and truth are inherent principles of reality is far more rational than interjecting a supernatural being that we can't observe or test in any way as the source of logic and reasoning and truth. Third, you can offer a naturalistic alternative. Logic and reason can be viewed as evolved cognitive tools that helped humans survive and thrive. They are universal principles like mathematics that are discovered rather than created. This approach doesn't require a divine explanation for their existence. In other words, God did not teach us logic and reason and mathematics. Humans have used their cognitive abilities to describe what we see in reality. By using these points, you can show that the argument for God as the source of logic and reason is either philosophically problematic, unnecessarily complex, or has a plausible alternative explanation.